dispels, so should it be topic number 2? This video dispels the myth that other groups do not talk about their historical losses. Is it not the case that Black people need to understand their losses to develop? Does this make us lose? Does this make us losers if we talk about it? This came, of course, it comes with a prompt. Let me share that with you guys. Sit back, is a 15-minute video. Sit back, take it all in, and we'll discuss it afterwards.
Yeah, we back with another one, man. Now, recently, I was having a conversation with a colleague over the weekend, man. We were just kicking and having a conversation. And from that verbal exchange, it inspired this video. And the theme of today's video is going to be self-reliance, assimilation, cultural preservation. That's going to be the themes that we're going to attack, right? Now, before we get into it, we got to understand the definitions of these words, right? Number one, what is self-reliance? Self-reliance refers to an individual or a community's ability to meet their own needs, make decisions independently, and be self-sustaining without relying excessively on external support, resources, or assistance. It involves the capacity to take initiative, solve your own problems, and provide for your own well-being in various aspects of life, economically, socially, and in personal matters. Now, what is assimilation? Assimilation refers to the process by which individuals or groups from one cultural or ethnic background adopt the customs, values, language, and the norms of a different culture. Within assimilation, there is a significant degree of cultural blending or merging, where the original cultural identity becomes less distinct and less recognizable and is replaced by another culture. This usually involves changes in language, dress, religion, and other cultural markers. Now, what is cultural preservation? Cultural preservation refers to the efforts and strategies to safeguard and protect your cultural heritage, tradition, practices, knowledge, artifacts, language, and customs. The goal of cultural preservation is to ensure that the cultural identity and legacy of a community is passed down to future generations and is not lost over time. Now, follow me. Follow me where I'm going with this. I'm going to make the connection towards the end of the video. Just follow me. Now, in this video, I'm going to examine 3 different historical events in 3 different communities, and I'm going to examine their response to those events, right? The first event we're going to analyze is the Jewish Holocaust. The next event we're going to analyze is the Chinese Century of Humiliation. And a third event we're going to examine is the transatlantic slave trade, colonialism, the scramble for Africa, etc., etc. Now, disclaimer, brothers, please don't come into the comment section talking about the Hebrew Israelites and all, bro, please, just, it's not that type of video. I'm not here to debate that topic at all. That's not the subject of the video, bro. When I talk about the Jewish people, you know who I'm talking about, okay? Don't get into the comment section and start debating about, please, okay? Let's continue. Now, in today's video, I'm not going to be going deep on the events. I'm going to examine the responses afterwards to those events. How did those communities respond to those traumatic events? Now, when we examine the Jewish people, even way before the Holocaust, they always had a culture that was very self-sustaining, very self-reliant, right? Do for self, community-driven, things like that. And in my opinion, that mentality was amplified and reinforced by the Holocaust. And I was having a conversation with a colleague of mine, and we were talking about that. We were talking about how the millions of Jews that passed away in the Holocaust, that had a profound impact on the collective Jewish consciousness, and it reinforced the importance of self-reliance and the ability to not only provide yourself, but protect yourself from foreign adversaries and those that want to do harm to you. If you are persecuted on a massive level like that, it's only natural to retreat amongst your own people, unite amongst your own people, rally amongst your own people to protect yourself, provide for yourself, be self-sufficient. And we can see how that played out with the establishment of Israel, a sovereign state where the Jewish people can govern themselves and be amongst themselves. And we can see by Israel's economy as well as its military, they take self-preservation very seriously. And something else that came up in a conversation with the colleague of mine, he was Jewish, by the way. He spoke about how, at least in his household, I'm not saying that he speaks for the entire collective. He's only one person. But from the conversation that we had, he spoke about how Jewish families, they consider it's very important to educate the children about events like the Holocaust from a very young age. It holds a central place in their collective memory. They don't have a mentality of, oh, well, you know, the past is the past. I wasn't there, you know, oh, well, I wasn't in the gas chamber. Oh, well, they don't have that mentality, you know, like we do. A lot of us, man, you know, we be like, man, slavery is slavery. You know, who cares about colonization? You know, the past is the past, man. Move on, man. Fuck that shit. Who cares about the ancestors? A lot of us have that mentality, you know, very nonchalant. We don't really give a goddamn. But I noticed, at least talking to my colleague, they don't have that same mentality, man. They take their history very seriously. They take their ancestors very seriously. They take their culture very seriously. They take self-preservation very seriously. And that's a natural response to a traumatic genocidal event such as the Holocaust. And going back to my conversation with my colleague, he told me that even though they have a secular education, they also have a religious education, a Holocaust education, and a cultural education. And the Holocaust education is seen as important because it serves as a way to not only give honor to their ancestors, but to preserve the historical record and prevent the denial or distortion of the events. For example, a few weeks ago, we were speaking about how down in Florida, Ron DeSantis, he's trying to talk about how there was benefits to slavery. Oh, the slaves learned skills and trades during slavery that they used to benefit themselves and their families. You see, shit like that is why you're supposed to teach your own children the events from a young age, because if you leave it up to somebody else, they're going to deny and distort the events. Like I said, they're going to fuck up the historical record. So you got to preserve the historical record. And in this video, I'm not going to get into the Jewish influence in certain sectors in the economy and industries, things like that. To me, that's simply a byproduct of a strong culture, a strong identity, due to all the things that I mentioned previously, right? Because they came from a traumatic event that caused them to unify and rally among each other. Whereas if you compare our reaction to slavery, colonization, we did the complete opposite. We did not retreat into self-preservation, cultural preservation. We jumped into assimilation, integration, Western civilization. We went into the complete opposite direction. We ran in the complete opposite direction, right? And we can see this by looking around. Yeah, we went in the wrong direction, bro. We went in the wrong direction. You know, when you're driving, you drive it in a certain direction and you realize, oh, damn, I've been driving like 500 miles in the wrong direction. God damn. That's what happened to us, bro. We did everything in the complete opposite in response to our traumatic event, which was slavery, colonization, the scramble for Africa, etc., etc. We went in the complete opposite. We did everything backwards. Because in reality, the natural response to any traumatic genocidal event is to be a cultural preservationist, is to preserve your economic, political, and physical well-being. The knee-jerk response should never be, let's go assimilate and join forces with the same people that subjugated us for centuries. That made no sense on our part. Just sitting back thinking about it, man. I was having a drink the other day, man. I was just thinking like, man, what the hell? Like, what was that about? Like, worldwide, black people worldwide just decided we just gonna lock arms and join forces with the same people that subjugated us, bro. Like, that was wild, bro. That was wild. But let's take a look at the Chinese, though, because it wasn't just Jewish people or African people that suffered their own atrocities and humiliations on the world stage. The Chinese also went through what they called the Century of Humiliation. The Century of Humiliation refers to a time period in Chinese history around the mid-19th century, mid-20th century, when China experienced a series of foreign invasions, territorial losses, internal disagreements, internal wars, unequal treaties with foreign powers. This era of humiliation, it deeply damaged the national psyche of the Chinese people, and it had a profound impact on the events that took place afterwards, politically and culturally. You see, similar to the Jewish people, the Chinese people, in response to their century of humiliation, they also retreated into cultural preservation. They also retreated into self-reliance. They didn't jump into assimilation and integration the same way we did. They didn't say, man, we're gonna link up with the British and shit like that. We're gonna link up with the French. No, they went in the opposite direction. You see, they went in the opposite direction that we did. And we can look around and we can see who got the money and power right now. In response to the century of humiliation, many Chinese people felt the desire to restore their dignity and their sovereignty on the international stage. Chinese intellectuals and politicians began to emphasize the importance of cultural preservation. Efforts were made to document, protect, and promote traditional Chinese culture, including the language, the art, the philosophy, the literature, etc., etc. Now, we got to ask ourselves, in response to our traumatic events, you see, they had a century of humiliation. We had multiple centuries of humiliation. In response to our multiple centuries of humiliation, we decided to go in the opposite direction. You see how the Chinese and the Jewish community, they decided to retreat amongst themselves. We decided to run away from ourselves. We decided to throw our culture and traditions in the trash. We decided to discard the memory of our ancestors. We decided to not uphold the memory and the honor of our ancestors. And we can see who got the money and power, and we can see who on the goddamn bottom. That's not a mistake. It's not a mistake. And that's also a big inspiration for the reason why I made my channel, man. I don't got the biggest platform, but if I can raise the consciousness of my brothers, man, if I can do my part, I'll be satisfied. Now, I'm not going to say that we never had our moments of unity and self-preservation and self-reliance. No, of course we did. Of course we did. We had movements such as the UNIA with Marcus Garvey. We had the Haitian Revolution, where several nations and kingdoms that were formerly enemies back on the African continent were able to put their differences to the side and rally for a common cause against a common enemy. We had the Pan-African Congresses of 1900, 1919, 1921, 1923, 1927, 1945. Take a look up on the screen. In the nearly half century between 1900 and 1945, various political leaders and intellectuals across Europe, North America, and Africa met 6 times to discuss colonial control of Africa and develop strategies for the eventual African political liberation. And we had a lot of legendary ancestors that were involved in the organization of these events. We had Henry Sylvester Williams, we had George Padmore, we had Kwame Nkrumah, we had Antonio Furman, we had Benito Sylvain. And if you go back to the year of the first Pan-African Congress in the year 1900, around the year 1900, that was during the scramble for Africa. That was when the Europeans were actively invading and pillaging and destroying Africa and taking African territory and annexing it to their colonial empires. That was when the Europeans were over there just, chopping off arms and legs, just going crazy on the continent of Africa. So the Pan-African Congress, it was a response to that. It was to address the issues of colonialism because the Congress aimed to voice strong opposition to the European colonialism going on in Africa during that time, which was leading to the partition and colonization of African territories by the European powers. And similar to the Chinese intellectuals after the century of humiliation, the Pan-African Congress, it served as a platform to advocate for the rights, the dignity, and the self-determination of African-descended people around the world. It called for the end of the exploitation and the oppression of African people around the world. It also served as a platform for unity and solidarity. The Congress emphasized the importance of unity amongst Black people, African people around the world, because those intelligent Black men that were alive during that time, they understood what I understand right now, that regardless where we are from, Black men, we have common interests, we have common enemies, we have common hopes and dreams, we have common aspirations. And those Black men during that time, they understood that. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, those many Pan-African Congresses actually ended up leading to the creation of the African Union, if I'm not mistaken. Now, unfortunately, in the modern day, the African Union is a vassal organization for the Western powers. It's not, it doesn't symbolize unity or none of that shit. Like I said, we retreated into assimilation and integration. So the African Union platform is nothing more but a platform for, integration and assimilation with the greater international community. It's no longer it does not serve as a platform for cultural preservation, unity, cultural exchange. No, that's not what it is today. But those legendary Black men from back in the day, that's the vision that they had. And of course, due to the fact that we want to assimilate and integrate, we did not maintain what they established. We wanted to go link up with the Europeans and the British and the French and the Spanish and all that bullshit. We've always had our legendary minds, our legendary intellectuals, but for the most part, the collective always had a mindset geared towards assimilation, integration. And unfortunately for us, assimilation and integration is not the pathway to power, success, dominance. It's just not. It's not. You have to have a mindset based on cultural preservation. You have to have a mindset based on self-reliance, self-sufficiency, love for yourself, love for your identity, love for your ancestors, love for your history. You have to have that type of mindset in order to succeed and compete out in the world. If you have a mindset of assimilation, integration, I'm trying to join the winning team, you're never going to be the top dog. You're never going to be the top dog. You're always going to be in the back seat. You're always going to be in last place. You're never going to be up on the podium with the gold medal. You're never going to be number one. But anyways, man, I don't want this video to be too long. Like I said, this video was inspired by a conversation that I had with a colleague, and I was like, man, different groups of people went through different traumatic events at different times, and they had different responses to each one. And you can see how one person going in one direction and another person going in another direction, you can see the different results they had. It's like if you ran a science experiment, you can see the different results that came about from that. And you can see that the people who went a different route, they wanted to go to the self-preservation route, the cultural preservation route. You can see that was the correct path to take. Not to deny your ancestors, not to deny your history, not to deny your ancient traditions like we always do. We always shit on our ancient traditions. Unlike other people who held on to those traditions, who held on and taught their children the traditions. And now they sit coming for the number one spot. So it is what it is, man. Just something to think about. It's something to think about. And until we understand that our unity is our strength, and until we understand the importance of valuing not only ourselves, but our predecessors, our ancestors, our forebears, our progenitors, our forefathers, our foremothers, until we understand the importance of valuing and upholding these things, we're always going to be running in the same spot, man. We always going to be running in the same spot. And it starts with the babies. It starts with instilling the proper mentality into the babies from a young age, so they know who they are, they know what the agenda is, they know what they got to do. Anyways, man, it's your boy Nevercard, that's Salim back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen, and I'm gone. Peace.
All right. Should be topic number 2. This video dispels the myth that other groups do not talk about their historical losses. Is it not the case that black people need to understand their losses to develop? Does this make us losers? I can't even find the next part. Oh, does this make us losers if we talk about it? I'll say this. We need to educate, of course. They use the example of the Jews who have, these different educations, so to speak, right? They have the Holocaust education, this, that, and the other. And so we need to have similar, for sure. I think we need to stop wallowing in our losses. We got to stop dwelling in our losses on a daily. And we have to put an end to others displaying our losses all the time, too. Also, we got to update our outlook on those losses, too. Because for example, they always show us antebellum slavery in movies and TV and whatnot. But that's not the slavery that's going on today. And there is slavery today. But it doesn't look like antebellum. So the average one of us doesn't see it. The average one of us thinks we're free. We're free to do whatever we want to do, this, that, and the other, because look at that. That's roots over there. That's what we used to be in. But no, we're in that still. It just looks different. So that's what I would say. We just got to stop wallowing in that. We definitely got to teach our children that and to have the contempt for the right people because of that history. But we definitely need to look at what's happening today also. That's also a part of that oppression that we're going through. Peace to Lero in the chat, who says peace, loved ones. Peace and black power to Bakari, who said that to us. He also said that's mostly what we talk about. We don't like to discuss wins or anything positive. That I'll give you for certain, Bakari. With that said, let me hear from Black Steel. Black Steel, what's it?
Well, I kind of don't agree with his analysis. Also, too, the question is that we don't really talk about our losses. I don't necessarily see that as the case. One thing I will say is that Black culture, African people's culture, came under attack in a way that Chinese people's culture did not, that Jewish people's culture did not come under attack. So, what I mean by that is that Jewish people were still able to speak Yiddish or Hebrew, excuse me. They were still able to practice their cultural customs. Here in America, especially with these Puritans, they made sure to stamp out any cultural practice that was done by African people. So you couldn't worship your God. You couldn't speak in your language. You couldn't beat drums. They made sure to bring the African down to the level of an animal. So after 250 years, and I'm just talking the US, after 250 years of slavery, to think we're just going to pick up our traditional African culture and go back to that is a fallacy, because the European had made a concerted effort to destroy our culture, destroy our connection to Africa. That was done purposely. So you can't really compare the two. Chinese people, yeah, they had their century of humiliation. That's 200 something years. I mean, we had 250 years of enslavement. Yeah, Jewish people have been persecuted since the Roman Empire. That's true. But I don't see their culture under attack the way African culture, the way African people have been reduced to the level of chattel, of human livestock, basically. So our experience is just not the same. I think sometimes we like to compare ourselves, but we don't have the same history. We don't have the same. I mean, there's certain things you can take from it, but to me, what I don't like about this guy, and I may be wrong, but I really feel like there's a lot of victim blaming. Like, look what these people did. Why didn't you do it? Without understanding the entire history of of our enslavement, of our colonialism. Now, I do understand that there are some elements who look at Black history like that's the past. It happened a long time ago. Let's just move on with it. And that's what, they're really parroting what a lot of white people say. They say that type of mess to kind of distance ourselves from our culture. So I don't think that we just discard it. I believe that the European did a good job of cutting us from that. And we're still trying to get back and rebuild that disruption in our culture that other people just didn't have. Um, so I do think we have to understand the losses, understand our wins too. The military studies their losses as much as they study their victory because they didn't want to recreate that. Um, I don't really know, as far as the Chinese and what they're able to do. I do know that they had a communist revolution. They had a Marxist revolution. That's something that Black people in America haven't had the will to do. But overall, our circumstances aren't the same, and you really have to take that into account. How our our condition differs from other groups of oppressed populations. There's similarities, but there's also differences, and there's also very significant differences as well. So I've talked long enough. I'll let Juana go ahead and speak. Thank you.
Now, there's no such thing as talk long enough if you know, when you're on the topic. Um, I will ask you though, Black Steel. I had the question lined up too. Uh, do you think? Okay, granted that the circumstances are different, I'll give you that for sure. Circumstances are different from others. Do you think just the mere revisiting of what happened in the antebellum period, do you think that's enough, or do you think that Black folks need to go back to that to bring it back forward into the reality that we're in currently?
Well, I think something Dr. John Henry Clark said. He said if you start your history as slavery, everything you do afterwards is going to seem like an improvement. And I don't think we should start our history at the antebellum slavery because we we had more time as kings and rulers and a world power than we did enslaved. But then that becomes our story, is just our enslavement. So I think we have to study all of it, but we cannot start at that because that interrupted our history and our story. It wasn't the sum total of our history. We was enslaved, and now we second class citizens, or now we're poor. We got to start from when we were on our mother continent, and we created empires and things like that. I don't think we need to lose track of that. I don't think we should start that. I think it's important to study that and have a respect for what happened during the slave period. But we can't start with that. Then we have to go back further.
I appreciate that, Black Steel. Uh, let's welcome in our brother Bakari this week. Bakari, how are you this week?
I'm good. What's going on with the panel on the chat?
Good. Thanks for coming through.
That's good.
How you doing, Bakari?
Look, I'm good, my man. You know what? I got to agree with Black Steel. You know what? I argue with Black Steel because I respect Black Steel, but now I got to agree with him. Damn it! But I agree, and I don't like that guy. I don't know what that Desaline guy get on my nerves. But anyway, that's all we talk about is our losses. How many videos do you have to see? Oh, look how the Chinese is trying to colonize Africa. Look at the Chinese domination of Africa. Look at the domination of these black. That's all we talk about. That's it. But I never heard nobody. But what we don't talk about is Look how the Angolans went and have the Portuguese complaining about Angola going to the UN, complaining. They're calling what Angola is doing to them is recolonization. We don't talk about those things. That's all we talk about is we don't even accept talking about anything positive. And God forbid if the other guy is in there on the panel, what he's going to put in there. So to say, should we talk about
I think Bakari is cutting in and
talk
out.
about? Okay, I'm on. All right, let me go get up.
Yeah, Bakari, you were cutting in and out. I want you to go and say I stopped you from talking or something. I heard you call me out last night. I'll address that a little bit later. But Bakari, when you get your sound back, just let me know. I'll go to Buana in the meantime. Buana, what say you?
No, I agree with Brother Bakari, and I agree also with Black Steel as well. Um, and by the way, Neferkari, Celine, that's my little brother. No shot to them whatsoever. But we are just doing an analysis in terms of the prompt itself. And I would say that when we talk about Black empowerment, one would ask the question, well, what is that? Empower, to put power inside someone else. You know what I mean? Especially in terms of blackness, being geared towards blackness, empowering the black mind, empowering the black human being, empowering the black community, putting power inside. And one would ask the question, well, how does one do that? You know, one does that not necessarily by focusing on the worst of ourselves, but the best example of ourselves, setting that as the pace for us, for everyone else to follow after. So we are in a propaganda campaign for the hearts and minds of our people in terms of how we perceive, look at ourselves, look at the goals for the future going forward, and how we should compete with other groups in the world. I don't necessarily believe that you're going to get that by always focusing on your losses. And it's not the fact that you should ignore your losses, because you could learn from your losses. There must be, when we go back and educate, when Koku goes back and talks about poems in terms of the ideas of losses, what has to come from that is how can we learn from that in terms of how we lost, how if we was to be given another opportunity, we can win from that experience. And also, when we look at our ancestors survived hell or hellish experience for a short portion of our history. Because 400 years, really, in terms of Black history, is a small time. That's a little small amount of time since we've been on the planet. But since we had to go through that process, we have to ask the question, how did our people survive hell? Because that's a trick in itself. Because most people don't survive hell. I live in a country right now where the indigenous population, 100% of them is wiped out completely and replaced with a black population. But we were able to survive the Spaniards and the English and the French. How is it that these people was able to survive these people, but the Arawak Indians and the Taínos was not able to? There's some trick inside that, but the black people had the ability to possess. How did those black people survive transatlantic slavery? They must have been very, very clever. They must have been the fittest of the fittest people on this planet. They must have had some idea of survival skills that, I don't know, maybe we don't possess these days, but we should look deeper into. What may seem as a loss, the fact that we having this conversation right now is a miracle in itself. Because the people who survived the transatlantic slave trade was the fittest of the fittest. That's a trick in itself. So even within the so-called loss, there were wins. There were wins. So we should ask ourselves these kinds of questions. Also, when we go back at history, there must be a balanced perspective. Yes, you've been in an enslaved situation, But how did the so-called slave or the enslaved people respond to the so-called conditions of slavery? They poisoned their masters. The Caribbean and the southern parts of America was rife with rebellion all over. We always been fighting continuously, not only physically, but in terms of not working, in terms of poisoning our masters, in terms of not following their religion. There are so many different things that we would have done. Also, when we talk about history, don't stay in history. The goal of the study of history is to focus on where we're supposed to go. What are the lessons to be gained from history in terms of what the goal is for the future going forward? Sometimes when we get into these historical discussions, we stay historical, and I feel our generation should be futuristic as well. Afrofuturism, looking at ourselves 500, projecting ourselves 500 years into the future in terms of what is the course and where's the direction of focused black people. Where should we be going? Follow your lane. See, when Usain Bolt running, he ain't looking at the man next to him talking about what the Chinese doing because the Chinese in the race too. And he ain't looking at the Jewish man running next to him. He ain't focusing on his race either. He Usain Bolt focusing on the path before him because he trying to get the fastest time possible. Understanding that yes, he is competing with other people, but he trying to be his best self. So we have to figure out what our goal is in terms of where we would have come from, the lessons learned from the past, and where we going forward and what we going toward. And our goal for me personally is to win. I ain't trying to be in the loser business. The brothers who want to lose, they'll eventually fall off because they can't keep the pace. But for us who trying to be competitive in this world and trying to produce forebears and children to be competitive in a global world going forward, we focusing on our strategic position, and we're gonna continue until we win this battle, against our competitors. That's where I am with it. But I'll leave it there.
Well said, Juan. Before I throw it back to Bakari, who's returned, let me try to deal with some of the chat. The chat has been doing their thing. Shout out to Brahu. I know I've seen Brahu here before. I think they might have been on the panel before as well. He said the Chinese had the freedom to reshape themselves. Black Americans aren't in the same position. There are specific control mechanisms against us reforming ourselves. Shagabi 262 earlier said, I think victim blaming. I think he's speaking to Black Steel there. He says, I think victim blaming wouldn't apply here because we understand our circumstances may be worse. But I think the point is that what is useful is how we rejuvenate. Sister Lero from the Harsh Reality podcast says, Africans have a unique plight. While similar to others, it's very different, both past and present, even amongst ourselves. She says continent and diaspora. So I don't compare Africans to other peoples. Brahu says we'll rejuvenate, speaking to Trigger Happy, we will rejuvenate once we get the negative forces that are stopping us from developing out of the way. Right? I got to skip around a little bit. Trigger Happy says, now the form of that rejuvenation is not what will look the same. The Chinese Cultural Revolution will not look the same as an African Cultural Revolution, but the comparison is still valid. Yana B says, what's up to everyone? Hello to everyone. Lero says, there's something to learn from every people's struggle, even the enemy themselves. I think the why can't we do it too talking points come off a bit self-loathing. That's an interesting take. Lastly, Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, if one says, why can't we do it too? In good faith, this is a question of what are the elements that other people have that we don't? Or what do we need that they may not need? I'll leave that comment up there for a while. I think it's a valid one. Let's get back to Bakari. Bakari, you were cutting in and out earlier. The floor is yours. Speak on it.
Okay. Am I okay now?
Perfect.
Okay. What I was saying, all we talk about is our losses. If you listen to social media, that's what the majority of Black people talk about. Actually, This is something I talk to actually a brother like me and Sean, because I talk about victories and talk about something positive. Because if you talk about something positive, everyone is going to turn it into something negative so they can discuss losses. And that seemed like that's all we discuss. And the question I ask is discussing losses motivating us to do anything? And for me to answer, the answer to that would be no, because if it was, show me a channel where we're not discussing losses. If discussing losses was pushing you forward, it was motivating you to go forward, we would be moving forward here on social media, right? But to say, why don't we discuss the losses more? I'm not sure they can be discussed anymore. I think that's why I stopped coming around social media and doing YouTube, and not because that's all you ever hear. We don't ever hear anything good. We just don't. It doesn't make a difference. We can talk about historical losses or wins. We could talk about today losses or wins. It's just certain things that you bring up. You going to, and I just mentioned black business because that is something I push. Just pushing black business, it's going to be something negative. And so I talk, that's a loss. So we're always discussing a loss. It's a guy that come on the panel. Now we accept the losses more than we accept a W. It's a guy come on the panel will tell you y'all ain't worth a damn and so on and so forth. And we will accept that. But then we get pushback from something good. So to say and that's a loss. The loss is in your mind. Everything starts in the mind. And mentally, that's all we have is losses. So that's why all we discuss. So I'm not even sure that the losses can be discussed anymore. I'm not sure that the losses can be discussed more than what they're already what they already talked about. I'm not sure. I just don't think they can. I really don't.
Thank you for that, Bakari. Before I say what I'm going to say, does anyone else want to add any thoughts here?
Yes, I have a question for the panel. Okay, so my question, based on what Brother Bakari says, how do we handle the sick elements of our community? When I say the sick elements, the people who look at us like we are a piece of shit. They're like the black man ain't worth nothing. How do we handle these elements that we know exist within our community, and we know they are sick. So we sick too, make no mistake about that. But some elements who are more sicker than others, and sometimes these people are the loudest voices within our community. How do we go about handling and dealing with these kinds of people? And this is entertained by the whole panel too, a black student as well.
Okay.
I have a question about that. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Let me answer that one. I believe, first of all, we identify who these elements are. We were talking last week that we don't have a mechanism to punish our traitors. Every group of people got trouble. We don't really have a mechanism to punish or expel those people from our community. So we need to have protocols in place to where when you have these self-loathing black people, they can be called out, they can be removed from whatever positions of authority, and they can be expelled. They can't come to our meetings. They can't come to our organizations. I believe you should make as much opportunity as you can to reach them. But when you got these people who just feel deep down that we are just pathetic, weak people who are never going to do anything, they got this self-loathing, you got to get them out of the community. I don't mean, well, maybe I do mean that, but they can't be allowed to hold positions of authority in our community, our organizations. These people have to be identified and have to be removed. We need to, what did Harriet Tubman do back when she was leading slaves to freedom? She would shoot them. If she saw he running away, she was running away, and she saw you want to turn back, she pull out that revolver and she say, "Yo, dead niggas tell no tales. You either go on or you die. So you either, if you're not with us, you against us." And I think, but that comes from us having a cohesive organizational movement that we don't have. But we need to have a method to identify, expel, sanction those people who are against the Black collective, and not give them cover. Oh, everybody has an opinion. Let them speak. No, bitch. You don't get a chance to speak. Talk about how we're worthless and sorry we're no good. Take that over there to the white people. They want to hear that shit. We don't want to hear that. So I think that we have to come up with a mechanism to expose, organize, and sanction our traitors.
So I'll jump in there. I'll jump in there. I've been getting flack now. Well, I've been getting flack for a while. Doing this stuff here on social media can bring it up. But recently, and I'm gonna say it directly, I see Bakari called me out last night over Azuli, and his participation. And I'll tell you all my sentiments on it. My feelings on it are we won't all agree on things. But I've learned personally in life, and by the way, Azuli is a friend of mine in real life, so I'll put that out there too. But I've learned personally in life that because there's all these differences of opinions, there's an opportunity to learn something. And there's also an opportunity to teach when people are wrong. And I personally appreciate that. Shoot the Breeze is not, or the Bitter Medicine podcast, what have you. Shoot the Breeze is not a echo chamber. It's not for everyone just to come and say the same things. If there's 6 panelists, we all say the same shit, and good night. It's supposed to be about diversity of thought. And if there's error, we should be able to correct the error. I agree with Black Steel that, especially when it goes too far, certain people should be removed and not allowed to come back. But I'll be real with y'all. I think Azuli does give good commentary until he doesn't. Meaning to say, I think he usually brings a good discourse until he doesn't, and then everyone focuses on the bad discourse, right? And then that becomes a whole thing. So the reason why he gets to come back around is because you might not realize it, but oftentimes he does add something good to the conversation, and he brings a good energy to the conversation. When he does that other stuff that we have to call him out on, like I said, I think it's a good opportunity to correct error, to teach, etc. I will say this though, and I'm not throwing shots. I'm being straight up. Bakari called me out. I'm saying Bakari called me out. I'm being straight up. I don't think Azuli is as bad as America's First Rifleman, and he damn sure ain't as bad as Hard Cold. And those guys are always around some of y'all's channels. So, that's my take on it. I think Black Seal is right. I think I listened to Bakari, most of what he talked about last night. I think he's correct too. I do think there's a point of no return where you could be escorted up out of here. I can't think of anyone in particular who I had to give that treatment to. I know a lot of y'all didn't like Gas. A lot of y'all don't like Oni. A lot of y'all don't like this one, that one. If I cast off the people who y'all don't like, it'll be me, Buana, and maybe if Black Seal wouldn't even be there. He's a socialist, right? So, so that's my take on that whole thing. When the time comes and there's people who deserve to be excommunicated, they shall be. But in the meantime, when there's opportunities to correct, to learn, to teach, etc., to have a full-bodied conversation, we're going to have those full-body conversations. I'll yield the mic for whoever else wants to respond.
I want to say something. I don't want to talk about. I didn't think you were talking about Azuli in particular. But when I hear him speak, I hear passion, but I also hear frustration because I understand he is Haitian and he sees what his countrymen, what his people go through on a regular basis. Um, so I think some of his comments come from pain, come from frustration. I don't feel like as he's one of the people who like just completely beyond the pale. But yeah, I what I hear in his voice and when he's talking is just the frustration of seeing what Hayes going through over and over and over again, and how it just never seems to be able to overcome all the challenges. Whenever you get ahead, there's always somebody coming up. The U.S., it's your trade, is the Dominican Republic. It's always something or somebody screwing. So I don't think what Erzuli is saying is, I mean, he like you say, he crossed the line, but I wouldn't put him in that category of he's too far gone. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I do understand. I think I hear in his voice the frustration of seeing what's going on in his home and feeling almost powerless to do anything about it. And my heart goes out to him for that.
Okay, can I say something about that?
Absolutely, go ahead.
I don't know if y'all can understand me. I'm breaking up on my end. Can y'all hear me?
You're clear over here.
Okay. What I want to say is, yes, when I said your name last night, I also said I wish you was there. I wasn't trying to say nothing behind your back, but I'm quite sure you already know that, right? So for me, when you say people like the first rifleman and hard code, you notice those people don't come to my chat no more. Like, and I mean what I say. I don't give a damn if ain't nobody in my chat. When I said that, I don't care who leave. I don't care because I'm at a point in my life where I've been around shit. It's something that I should have been. Well, I'm trying to say, okay, cause they black. No, hell no. And for me, somebody like Azuli, I'm gonna show you something. When you say it's not an echo chamber, I can make this panel an echo chamber right now, Koku. All I have to do is say the black woman is God, regardless of how I mean it. It becomes an echo chamber from the channel, means from the panel and the chat, because I said something positive about a black woman. If I say a black woman is not dating outside because they are loyal, then it becomes an echo chamber from the panel and the chat trying to find something negative about a black woman. And I say certain things just so I can see how, because I know how people is going to react. But for me, when I say I grew up around activists, I was raised by activists. I was raised with people who these white folks who tried to kill, burn crosses in the yard, run them off the road. I was raised by these people. I've said that, and I see these people give their life and get tired. So for me, what I said is, and I wish I could wear their shoes, but I can't. But I do my best. But for me, now I tell them don't even come around me. People like Azuli, people like Hardcore, people like and I don't give a damn how people feel about me. People don't like me, I really don't care. And I'm just being honest with you. People like and anybody, I tell them don't come around me because there's no need. For me, for as I'm concerned, when you are trying to do something positive and you're working towards something positive, for me, those people have no purpose. There's really no purpose when everything come out your mouth is absolutely negative, every damn thing. So then if we accept that, we look in the mirror as like, goddamn, we got to be the worst people on earth. I know some people that would tell you, Cynthia G, say something good, but we just focus on her talking negative about the black man. But that's what she says louder. It's people like that I wouldn't want around. But I ain't telling nobody to do what I do or how I feel. I'm just saying, me, this is my opinion and where I am and why I say it's certain things that I do, certain things that I'm doing and I'm a part of will never be mentioned on social media because just like someone told me, black people have the right to critique. It's also black people have the right to say, I really don't want to hear this shit right now. If you have nothing positive to say to input to help. Since I know none of that will ever come from social media, it's things I'm doing that nobody on social media would never ever know, because the shit is tiring. I saw people get a life. I see people that just got old, and you could just tell they were just tired. And maybe some people haven't been around that. I saw people gave their life to fight this shit. And those type of people, it was the same people that absolutely sold them out, man. And you said, and you see it. I know people could have been millionaires and they turn it down because they want to fight for black folk. And God forbid if you mention the past, oh, you know, the civil rights generation, they were just access to white sex. Like, God, all of them. Name one. Name everybody in the civil rights generation that fought for you, that wanted access to white sex. Then I can name a whole lot of them that ain't what they wanted. They was out here fighting trying to make things better for black folks, and they did the best they could. And the only thing we can do today, because we got the black people today in 2023 got the magic dust and the special sauce where we can insult them so everybody can look at me. And for me, that's why I very rarely do a show now, because it's almost like that bullshit. It's just tiring. It's just extremely tiring, and it just wear and it just wear folks down. I'm just getting back to my mentoring, what I'm doing, and the people I'm rocking with. I've got my people. We got this certain things that we doing, and that's what I'm going to be about, and that's what I'm going to be focused on. And I ain't telling nobody they have to think like me. I ain't telling nobody they have to tell somebody, don't come here because you too negative. I'm just saying me. I tell the bastard, stay the hell away from me, because I really don't want to hear everything that come out your mouth is something negative. Just like when we was just talking, when I say, when you said about, we say we don't discuss our losses. And when I mentioned, every time we mention somebody being colonized, we always talk about what is happening to black people around the world. And I just asked a simple question, and I asked it last night. How many people discussed Angola colonizing Portugal? Why don't we discuss that? Why do we just act like we just sit down and take people's shit all the time? Why don't nobody ever want to discuss that? Because it's not enough. Okay, but you have to start somewhere. Even like when I mentioned the grocery store last night, the people that own the Yellow Banana grocery stores then come, yeah, but that ain't enough. But yeah, we ain't got enough business owners. But yeah, we ain't doing this though. Like, it just gets so damn tiring for me anyway. And I yield the mic.
Yeah, Bakari, I appreciate what you said there. Speaking of activism, this is why I'll say this. There's two things I got to agree with. I agree with what Bakari was saying there, and I agree with something Black Steel was saying as well when it comes specifically to Azuliism. And Azuliism is in the chat. You can come up on the panel and talk as well. You know, the thing with Erzuli, just to go back to him for a quick second, Erzuli is actually an activist too. I know Erzuli. I've known Erzuli a long time now, probably half my life now. And we were activists together. We were in pro-Black groups way back in the day, way before YouTube and the internet. And I know how the guy is. I think Black Steel is correct in what he said, is that Erzuli is frustrated with our material situation. And Erzuli is a hip-hop kid. He's from Haiti, as you can tell, but he's a hip-hop kid. He kind of goes at it in that hip-hop kind of way. And again, I don't want to be talking for another man. So Erzuli, you come up here and speak for yourself. But what I know about the brother is that he'll say something kind of in that in-your-face way, but he's not a hater. He doesn't hate himself. He doesn't hate his people. He's actually an activist type. If you saw his film, you'll know that he's about his people and stuff like that. He comes up here. I think what happens is, I think we have this thing, and I'm not talking about Bakari, I'm talking about all of us. I think we have this thing where a person says a negative thing today, a negative thing next month. We remember the negative things they say, but we didn't remember the heat they was bringing when we were discussing other topics. And I'll leave that there for Buana to have his last thoughts and this, that, and the other. And if Erzuli comes up, etc., But I think that's the thing to keep in mind. I think that's the difference between Razuli and the hardcores who KW Don 7 is familiar with apparently because he posted a comment about the brother and the America's First Rifleman and all these types of people. But Bonnie, you go ahead.
No, I think that since Razuli is his name getting called, I think Razuli is a man, grown ass man. He could come, he could defend himself. So I don't need to tell him that he need to defend himself. You know um, but the negative, the comments that are made sometimes are abrasive. They are abrasive and they are frustrating. And I don't want to lose good people like Brother Bakari. Brother Bakari is coming from a background, historical background, where his family fighting in terms of civil rights and in terms of community ship and things of that nature. You know what I mean? His voice is needed in the community, absolutely needed. And I don't, but in terms of his dad was a fighter. His dad would have encountered people who would have been frustrating to him as well. So my thing is to implore, to beg almost, but Bakari is to not to understand. Yes, you're frustrated. You're a human being, but your job is to work, regardless of sometimes of the negative attention it might bring. You know what I mean? Don't watch the crowd sometimes. You know what I mean? Watch the work. You know, in terms of uh, Razuli, sometimes his statements could be extremely abrasive, and some brothers them don't take that well. Don't take that well. You know what I mean? Should I say he should speak in a different kind of way? He's a grown man. He should be self-directed in the things that he do. You know, this is the reason why I would appreciate him coming on the panel and having a dialogue, a diatribe, a back and forth. Let's have a conversation in terms of our rhetoric sometimes, because it's not only us on the panel. The brothers have to remember that it is the people, the listeners as well. The listeners as well. They gain insight from the things that we say. Some of them internalize the things that we say. Some of them things heal the things that we say. It's beneficial for them. Consider this for some of the brothers on the panel. 20 years down the line, 20 years down the line, right? When your daughters and your sons listening to shows like these and the voices, and to hear my daddy saying the black man ain't shit and a black woman don't have a classification of any kind of worthiness, consider that. And say, and you think that they'll be proud to say my daddy used to say these kinds of things? Just consider that. Just consider it. You know, so our dialogue, our conversation is very important. And you have to, I understand this on a Saturday night we drinking rum and Guinness or whatever, and we engaging in so-called loose talk. But some of the conversations we should consider, because these things reverberate not only through social media, but in time, because you'll never know what your children and grandchildren will be hearing in the future and listening to these kinds of dialogues right now. So these kind of dialogues, we must consider the things that we say, because these things that we say, we believe that they might not be weighty, but these things are 100 pound words we're talking over the social media right now, because these things will be considered by future generations, whether we believe these kinds of things or not. They will listen to these dialogues in the future going forward, and you don't want your your grandchildren to hear my granddaddy used to talk like this, or my daddy used to talk like this. You know what I mean? Just consider our dialogue sometimes, and let's try to talk in the highest dialogue possible in terms of how we treat one another and talk to one another in terms of going forward. It'll affect your life internally, believe it or not. If you talk positive kinds of manifestation, and I know people say, well, it's airy fairy kind of nonsense or whatever. Try it. Try it. Try it. No, the black man ain't shit. The black man is the best of the best. We survive horrors and we still here. We still here after 400 years, where many of us have been wiped out off of the face of the planet. Your ancestors, you know, in the form of your manifestation of you still here. You all survived the horrors of everything you experienced, where you could still come on social media and have these kinds of dialogues. You are the fittest of the fittest and the best of the best. The reason why we talk about Peter Tosh and people like him is they exemplify supreme confidence in themselves. and supreme confidence in the skills that they possess. Like Muhammad Ali used to say, "I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest." And this is the reason why the world loves him, because he manifests supreme confidence in his skill and himself. Malcolm X. All these people have that thread, that DNA that say that they are the best of the best. Despite what the world may say, what I believe is I'm the best of the best, and I can show you why I'm the best of the best. This is the reason why Peter Tosh been dead more 50 years right now, and we still dialoguing about him. Marcus Garvey been dead more almost like 50, 80 years, and we still talking about them because they exemplify supreme confidence in themselves. They say we the best of the best. Marcus Garvey say consider yourself to be the perfect. Consider yourself to be perfect, despite what the opposition may say. You know what I mean? So this is how we should trigger and train our mindset and our thinking, and then go out and execute, manifest these things in the physical, natural world. This is the reason why we still talking about a Peter Tosh 50 years after he didn't die. So this is the kind of dialogue we should continue. But I'll stop there.
Appreciate that, Buana. Azuli has joined us. Before I give Azuli the mic, let me just say this too, to echo what Lero said in the chat. Folks just got to calm down. You're all okay. Relax. LOL. We just some passionate Africans for real. Laughing my ass off. That's what Lero had to say. I'll just say this. We have Bakari here. We have Azuli up here. We'll give y'all a few minutes time here, but let's be respectful. Let's keep it calm. Let's express ourselves. Use our words like Buana just said eloquently. Azuli, welcome to the panel. How are you this week?
Yo, I'm good. I was just minding my business. Like I heard, what is going on, bro? What? I'm a trader. How people put my name next to a trade? I was shocked. I haven't been here in 2 weeks. What's going on? Why are people coming after me on a day I was just listening, minding my business, and I hear what's going on, Coco? I'm just asking the question. I don't get what that has to do with the prompt. I don't know. Well, maybe I missed something because I went back. I was listening. I heard Black Steel says that some people that don't need to have a say to talk or whatever, and certain shit they need to be cut off. And then I hear you said something that somebody said about me, and then whatever. I don't. What is going on? I'm shocked. My whole being is shocked.
All right. Here's the Koku notes. The very fast update.
Okay.
We were talking about something else. Black Steel wasn't talking about you when he said that.
No. I understood it. I'm just saying. He went from that, and then he went on this and that, and I don't know what happened. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, well, I'll be quite frank with you. I think the thing that really sent this off, that has this sentiment going on. Bakari did a show last night. By the way, everyone in the chat, make sure you tuned into Bakari. I know you say he's not on social media as much these days, but I think Bakari's voice is important. Tune into his show. I was there last night. I couldn't get on when he had called. He had actually mentioned me and Buana. I couldn't get on at the time. But this goes back to the, and I'm sure you've heard Buana saying, this goes back to you saying black folks ain't shit, this, that, and the other. And the question in general becomes, why do we, well, I guess me especially, why would I let someone be around who thinks negatively of black folks, who will say black folks ain't shit, this, that, and the other? And I gave my response to that earlier, but I think this goes back to that dust up between you and Bakari about, I won't repeat it, but about certain people not being kings and queens or what have you. So I'm giving you the opportunity, really and truly, to speak to who you are so people could understand you when you speak. See, I'm the only one here who knows you and who's known you 25 or more years now, right? I'm the only one who knows you that way. So what I think needs to be said, I think people need to understand how you come at this black liberation stuff. So you have the floor. Go ahead.
Well, this is what I'm gonna say, and me and Koku, we go way back. But that's what I'm trying to say is this: to be honest, Koku, I don't really care what these people think. I know my heart, and I know me and you have those conversations all the time. And I know sometimes I say stuff you disagree with, and I could see it in your face. But you know how I feel about it. Number two, I look at it this way. Some black people, a lot of black people look at our trajectory as the glass is half full. Maybe I'm a cynic. I look at it half empty. That doesn't mean that I don't think. So when you say somebody ain't shit, that doesn't mean that you think. I'm saying that as an individual, I've said that many times on the chat. As an individual, black people have done a lot of stuff in the midst of them cutting us down, in the midst of redlining, in the midst of racism and all of that. But I'm saying that as a group of people, if we look at Americans and black people who are not from the America, like the Caribbean, Africa, we are at the bottom of the totem pole. And the black Americans in America are just here because they're getting some crumbs off the table. And I'm not saying those crumbs are not that. I'm not saying black Americans don't work hard. I'm not saying some of us don't work hard. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying as an overhaul, I don't think after 400, 500, maybe in 2000 years, I don't think we've learned anything. We just, so my thing is, if somebody I think black people are this, okay, that's you. And to be honest, I don't care because I know where I stand. The fact that people say, oh, you're a queen. I said, you're a queen. No, you're not a queen. You're not a king. You're not a god. You're not a goddess. That's like, I could understand if people was mad at me if somebody had said, yo, I'm teaching my daughter to be a doctor. And I go, no, your daughter's not a doctor. Then I believe that's offensive because you know why? As a child or as a young man, you can become a doctor. You can become a lawyer. You can become a police officer. You can become a president. So what pisses me off is that black people call each other kings and queens and God is, how you a queen and a king and a god and you under the ruling of the man that you call quote unquote the cave man. How is that possible? How is it possible that you are all of that in a bag of chips and then you are they've been ruling you for so many years? So if in your I don't and then people say I speak like that about the same thing that's going on in Haiti, the same thing that's gonna be going and it's gonna get worse from now on. Kenya's trying to do and if your man he thinks I'm this, brother, I don't care. I do not care. I know who I am. I know what I think, and if that's how it is, that's how it is. But I've said stuff. Yeah, maybe it's abrasive. Maybe it's this. Yeah, the house is burning. I don't have time to coddle you. When the house is burning, I don't have time to tell my son, come on, put your shoes on. Let's go one step at a time. No. A lot of problems people talk about how somebody's gonna be mad at me. Talk about the way I think. You're not, and then people are gonna say I'm attacked. Yo, you cannot join the U.S. Army and talk about I'm a traitor. You talking about this every day? People get up on this show and they're listening to you. You talking about the America's this, America that, but you was in the army doing that beating, and you want to call me? At the end of the day, hey, if you don't feel like I'm not going on nobody, I only come on Kogu's show because I know Goku and there's a couple of other people. I used to go on their shows. Now I'm not coming on your show. I don't care about your show. So if you don't want me to, don't worry about it. I'm not coming on your show. And for me, like I'm gonna say, I love my people. I can't come from the dishonoring route to be like, oh, I hate my. Why would I do that? When everything is on the equal level, black people thrive. So for somebody to say, oh, why I should come up on the show, first of all, that's not what. So people can't have different opinion. The only thing I'm gonna say for myself, maybe I'm a little cynic. Maybe that's why it comes out. And a lot of other people look at the glass half full, and I look at the glass half empty, and I just think the house is burning. I don't have time. I don't think we have time to be like, hey, put your shoes on. Come on. Yo, come on. So that's how I feel. If that's
get your black ass up, let's go. Right?
That's all I'm saying. And if you feel that's offensive, if you feel that I don't love my people because of that, that's something wrong with you. Because I don't believe if a father tell a son the fire is burning, the father says, yo, get your ass up and let's go. I don't think the son's gonna look at the daddy don't love me. So I feel there's so I don't know, man. Hey, that's all I gotta say, bro.
I appreciate that. Bakari, you wanted to respond?
He said, how can I say that? Oh, because I was in this man's military. I damn sure was in this man's army. I damn sure was. But I'm damn sure the same one who said he wouldn't go to war for this country while they threatened to throw me in military prison. And I told him I'm grown enough to make this decision not to go to y'all war. Therefore, I'm grown enough to accept whatever consequences come with it. Me joining the military had nothing to do with me giving a damn about this country. But I understand what he said. But my point still stands. And like I said, it ain't just him. I just don't sit around and listen to nobody who want to tell black people ain't shit. And I know Yona B put in the chat, say it's freedom of speech. You're right, they have freedom of speech. So if they have freedom of speech to say black people ain't shit, I have the freedom of speech to defend black people. And I have the freedom to say, I don't want to be around that type of shit. And that's me. I'm not telling nobody else to do what I do. That's why I turned off most of black. And for a minute, I thought it was just me. And I don't know if y'all even listened to a guy named Chris Harris. I had turned him off too. But he did a show last week, and it was called I'm Sick of Black YouTube. And then I realized, and other people went on the panel, then I realized it wasn't just me who was tired of hearing everything negative about black people. Like, how did the negative become the absolute representation of a whole race of people? And that is what's defended. Like, I'm gonna give you an example. 2 weeks ago, there was a shooting and killing on Morgan State University. Then there was a shooting on Bowie State. There was a shooting at the State Fair Classic between Grambling and Prairie View. Then there was a shooting on Jackson State campus. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Who do you think the black community is taking up for? Do you think they're trying to defend the people that went to those colleges, or do you think they're making excuses? Just be honest. They're making excuses for the people doing the shooting, the black community. Be honest. I know don't nobody want to answer that one, but I can tell you they're figuring out a way. Well, you got to understand the type of pressure we've been under. Like, goddamn, the type of pressure you've been under. So you go on the black college campus and you shoot the black people who done invited you to parties. Then there was a shooting at a white school, Northwestern State. Football player was killed. Black dude. See, was shot by. But then when I said and say, we need to go to school, or we need to protect this. No, you know, the HBCU, see, that's the problem child community. You sitting up there trying to take up for them. But ain't nobody gonna say nothing about those people that was murdered because they go to an HBCU. Ain't nobody. So who do you think will take? So when I'm talking about the negative shit, it ain't just a Zuli saying, oh, black people ain't shit. It's like black social media. And like I said, I really don't give a damn how feel about me. Like my black book drive that I have, I don't put my cash app and ask nobody on YouTube for nothing no more. I get out here in the streets. I do what I do. People see me giving away books to little black children written by black authors. I put my money. People donate some money, and I just give away books. I don't even ask for nothing on black, because I'm not here no more. And I feel like you are what I watch. I come through here on Saturday night. I'll tune in the forecast. You are what I watch. I got back into like shit, man. Let me listen to my dogs. I just started watching, going back to my old school dog books because I don't think anything is going to be built if we just focus on the negative. Because if you ain't shit, you damn sure can't build nothing. So for me, I just look at the positive, and I have the right to say I'm going to get away from that if I choose. It have nothing to do with dislike. It really don't have anything to do with dislike because it's not about whether I dislike somebody. I respect the fact that people have their own opinion. It's just have something to do with me for my sanity. So I get away.
All right, Bakari. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure with the pregnant pause earlier if you had stopped. So my bad for interrupting. Buana, go ahead, and then we'll move on to the next prompt. All right.
Yeah, I know we can move on. Can I quickly say to the brothers, to all the brothers on the panel, just to consider something. When we say that we don't care, I know that's like a defensive mechanism and things of that nature, based off of sometimes comments made that we feel like we need to get defensive about. But all of us care about our community. All of us care about our community at large. And we want to see the betterment of our community. The universe put us in a situation on a Saturday night where brothers from diverse situations come to get together to collectively to talk with one another. And I believe the universe, there's some organization to it. Let me put it like that. If by happenstance the universe put this collective of people, a men and women, in a room together. So I understand that the defensive mechanism is to say that I don't give a shit and I don't care or whatever, you know, whoever. But I think that we do care about our community. We do care about our community. We do care about what another man thinks. To be honest with one another. To be honest. But I understand, you know, that you have to play the whole charade or whatever. We in a situation where we could be beneficial, we could be of benefit to one another and working together. So we should consider the word from one another and care about what is expressed. So maybe it could not only teach the greater community who watching this example that men can talk and dialogue without cussing out one another, but we can learn from the experience and grow from it and move forward from it. So just consider that in terms of this whole indifference, because that's a facade. You know, we do care, so we should care in a way that is progressive and productive with one another. Let me put it like that. So I'll leave it there.
I want to say something real quick. I'm saying that hey, there's many ways to skin a cat. If you think it's okay to cuddle black people even when they're doing the F free, my only thing is I'm not cuddling you if you're doing some F shit. And if you do some F shit, I don't care if you're black, you need to go called out on it. So I think a lot of people do not like that. White. No, if a black person does some F shit, you should call them out too. That's the only way you move. We could grow. If you can't criticize your own people, and if it's by criticizing your own people, people think that you hate your black people. Hey, it is what it is. Like I said, I'm gonna disagree with what Buana just said. I really don't care, bro. You could and you could rule your county the way you want. I'll rule my county the way I want. So if there's love for the people, that we'll find a way to come together. You rule it the one you want to cuddle people, you cuddle people. I don't cuddle my own people. If they did something wrong, I think out of all people, we should be able to call our own people when they do stuff that's not conducive or that's not beneficial to to black people as a whole, not just an individual.
But
So
but but, but Azuli, in your critiques, right? In your critiques, right?
yeah,
I don't hear you say a lot about you being congratulatory and say that person over there is a great black man. That woman over there is a great black woman. It's all a stick. You know what I mean? It's like you give the stick, you know, but you don't give the carrot at all. You don't give like the kudos to say, well, I look at this black man as a great black man. I look at this black woman as a great. Whereas I understand the criticism, but
I
where's
talk
the
about
congratulations, brother?
I talk about Thomas Sankara 24/7. I say Thomas Sankara is one of the best guys that ever did it. Y'all don't hear that part though.
Thomas and Gara. You never. I don't even hear you talk about Desaline. You know what
I
I'm
mean,
saying?
what do you mean?
But okay,
Thomas Sankara.
I
I
hear
talk
that.
about
I hear
Patrice
that.
Lumumba. I even talk about the brother that they trying to what's his name from the Sudan, the one that I forgot his name, Idi Amin. I speak a lot about a lot of
Uganda.
stuff. I talk about yeah, you guys. A lot of guys talk about actually you don't think you're African, bro. I'm the way I'm looking at things right now is gonna be different than when I looked at it prior. If I say, hey, I think we're the first people on this Western Hemisphere. What y'all hear is that I'm saying I'm not African. I repeat it over and over and over. I say we were the first here, meaning that African came from the West and inhabited here but you don't hear that. What you hear is gonna this guy is saying he's gonna oh he's not African. He's ADOS. He's this. So you choose to hear what you want to hear. I say what I said. I again, like I'm saying, I've said it. Sometimes there's different two type of people. There's some people who are cynical and some people who are, oh, everything is beautiful. We all, hey, I'm a cynic. So I might look, like I said, I look at the glass half empty, and you might look at the glass half full. So maybe that's the disconnect. But like I said, that's on you guys. I know who I am. Hey, maybe you guys are a bunch of two cents. I'm deciding straight up. So maybe that's where the disconnect is. But hey, I'm not gonna say anything if that's it.
All right, Desalines.
And let me say one thing. I'm gonna say one thing, then I got to get off and listen offline. But I'm gonna say this right.
Brief
Like
for me,
you
please.
say you know Azuli. I don't know Azuli, right? So if you say Azuli heart is in a good place, I say, okay, I trust Koku, right? So but watch this, right? Part of the reason I turned off, and maybe it could be, and I'm just being honest, maybe it could be I listened to so much other stuff where everything was just negative. Well, now it's almost what I can't deal with anything, right? Like I said, me saying what I say have nothing to do with dislike. It don't even have nothing to do with me having no respect uh for Azuli or anyone else. And we saying Azuli because I said Azuli name last night. And like I've said before, I don't say people name that I don't have respect for. And I think the people that have been on my panel have heard me when I would just say the leader of this organization and won't say those people name because I have absolutely no respect for those people. So it could be where I have allowed other people who I don't deal with at all, and all of that has bothered me. So I'm like, goddamn it, and everybody just follow it. And then the person, because I'm a firm believer, you tend to take your frustrations out on the people that you're around. You don't take them out on the people who you truly don't care about because you're never around or you never listen to those people, right? So that's, and I'm not trying to defend anything that I said. I'm not trying to make excuses for anything that I said. You know what I said, and I stand with what I said. I stand there. And the only thing I'm like, sometimes I just do think the positive of Black people get shunned to the back burner. And like I said, since I see a Zuli over here and I talk to a Zuli, maybe my frustrations that I have with other people tend to come out on the person that I'm around. And like I said, it have nothing to do with dislike. It have nothing to do with no respect. Because like I said, Bwana and Koku have been on the panel with me. When I would say, I won't say this person's name because I don't have any respect for that person. So I would say your name and would say, I wish they were here to defend themselves. So you know what? So like I said, I am who I am. I said what I said and I stand on how I stand. But I can't say maybe that's it. And maybe that's why I shut so much off because of the frustrations that I was having with Black social media, like the other guy that I mentioned. And I know because he used to do a show every day. And now shit, you're lucky if you see a show once a week from him, the same thing. Black YouTube, and that's the biggest thing for me. So on that note, I will yield my mic.
Appreciate that, Bakari. I appreciate the conversation we had during the second Shoot the Breeze topic of the night. A lot of comments from the chat. I'll just read Trigger Happy to be the last word on that prompt. For me, all opinions are welcome as long as the points are argued strongly. No issue with me. Let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 tonight. Thanks to all of you who joined us tonight. I appreciate you guys for coming through. For some reason, I'm getting an error. I appreciate you guys for coming through. Make sure, if you haven't already, click the link at the top of the chat for the Shoot the Breeze Clips channel. Conversations like what we have tonight will be clipped and put on there, as well as past conversations are clipped up and put on there. Check it out. Share the clips when you can. I think it's worthwhile. Thanks to Afro Native World for sharing the show last week and talking about the conversation we had about the invasion of Haiti with Joni. That got a lot of people tuned in to that episode this past week, so thanks for that. Let me just get right to it. Shoot the Breeze